Hello everyone, I'm Sudha Udaya. Welcome to today's unit in the Building and Construction Programme. Before we begin, I want to remind you of the purpose of this programme. Each unit is designed to give you the knowledge, skills and industry behaviours required to become a competent and confident building practitioner in Australia. Throughout this course, I'll be drawing on more than 30 years of hands-on experience in residential and commercial construction. My goal is to connect the theory directly to real project situations, showing you how the National Construction Code, Victorian regulations, WHS requirements, and industry standards apply on actual work sites. As we move through each topic, think about how these principles translate into the decisions builders and site managers make every day. By the end of each unit, you should feel more prepared to apply these concepts in practical, safe, and compliant ways on the job. Let's get started. Today's session is Module 3, Volume 3, Section 1, Manage Business Risk, Part 1. In construction, risk is not only safety. It also includes time, cost, quality, contracts, cash flow, compliance, and reputation. In this session, we will focus on the first stage of risk management, setting things up properly so we can identify risks accurately. By the end, you should be able to establish the risk context, define the scope for your risk process, recognize common business risks in construction, review existing arrangements using tools like SWOT, and benchmarking. Engage stakeholders and communicate the process clearly. Prepare for risk identification using practical factors and site realities. Risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. That definition fits construction perfectly. Every project has uncertainty: weather, subcontractors, approvals, supply delays, and client changes. Risk management is not about eliminating risk. It's about seeing risks early, understanding which risks matter most, putting controls in place before damage happens, making decisions that protect the business and project outcomes. In building and construction, unmanaged risk usually appears as delays and rework, cost overruns and margin loss, contract disputes and claims problems, compliance breaches with WHS, building approvals or environmental conditions. Establishing the risk context means clearly describing the environment your business operates in, so risk decisions are realistic and consistent. There are two key parts: external context, market conditions, labour availability, suppliers, regulators, approvals, competitor pressure, and the economy. Internal context, your financial position, staff capability, systems, company culture, current workload, and leadership structure. Context also includes your risk appetite, how much risk the business is willing to accept. For example, some builders accept higher growth risk, but not higher safety risk. When context is clear, risk management becomes structured and repeatable across projects, rather than depending on who is managing the job. Next, we define the scope of the risk management process. Scope is important because it controls how big the process becomes and keeps it focused. In construction businesses, risk scope may cover one project only, a business unit, like estimating, procurement, or delivery. The whole organization's strategic and operational risk together. To set scope, you decide the time frame, this project, this quarter, or the whole year. Which risk categories are included? Financial, contractual, safety, quality, environmental, reputation. Who will be involved? Managers, supervisors, admin, subcontractors, and sometimes clients or consultants. A clear scope prevents risk management becoming too broad, while still covering what matters to business success. Evaluate current processes and requirements. Before you start listing risks, you should review how the business currently operates. This shows what controls already exist and where gaps are likely. Evaluate areas such as estimating and tender review, contract review, variations and documentation control, programming and scheduling, procurement and subcontractor engagement, WHS systems, inductions, reporting, supervision, quality systems, inspections, defect control, financial controls, job costing and cash flow tracking. The key output is simple. What is working well? What is inconsistent or weak? What risks are already controlled? Which risks are being managed informally with no system? This evaluation helps you focus risk management effort where it is most needed. Types of business risks. Construction businesses face multiple risk categories at the same time. Common types include WHS risks, incidents, unsafe work practices, poor supervision, financial risks, cash flow pressure, underquoting, cost escalation, bad debts. Contractual risks, scope disputes, missing variation approvals, unclear documentation. Time risks, delays from labour shortages, weather, sequencing, long lead items. Quality risks, defects, rework, failed inspections, non-compliance with plans and specs. Supply chain risks, material shortages, unreliable suppliers and subcontractors. Reputation risks, complaints, poor communication, disputes, negative project outcomes. Grouping risks helps you build a consistent risk register and avoids focusing only on one area while missing others. Practical risk example. Here's a quick practical way to build risk thinking. Imagine your company is running 2 jobs at once, a townhouse build, a small commercial fit-out. Ask yourself, what could stop us delivering on time? What could damage profit margin? What could trigger a dispute? What could cause non-compliance or rework? Then group the answers under headings like people and subcontractors, materials and procurement, program and sequencing, WHS and site safety, quality and inspections, client decisions and variations, cash flow and progress payments. This style of activity trains you to identify risk based on real construction causes, not generic business theory. Organisation objectives and business environment. Risk management must link back to objectives. If you don't know what you're trying to achieve, you can't define what risk looks like. Objectives might include growing turnover while protecting margins, improving on-time completion, reducing defects at handover, maintaining strong WHS outcomes, expanding into a new market segment. Then consider the business environment. Is labour tight or stable? Are material prices volatile? Are approvals slow or predictable? Are competitors bidding aggressively? Objectives tell you where you want to go. Environment tells you what pressures may push you off track. Together, they guide risk priorities. Legislative and regulatory context. In Australia, many construction risks come from non-compliance. Risk management must include legal and regulatory obligations. Key areas include WHS laws and duties of care for employers and officers, building approvals, inspections, certification, and National Construction Code requirements, licensing and registration obligations for builders and trades, environmental conditions, waste, sediment control, dust, noise and neighbour impacts, workplace relations responsibilities, correct worker classification and fair employment practices, contract and payment obligations including progress claims and record keeping. A practical approach is to ask which requirements could stop work if breached, which requirements have penalties or serious consequences, what systems ensure we comply consistently across projects. Organisation policies and procedures. Internal policies and procedures either reduce risk or create risk if they are unclear or inconsistently applied. Strong construction businesses usually have clear procedures for WHS inductions, toolbox talks, incident reporting, quality inspections and defect registers, document control, drawing revisions, RFIS, approvals, procurement, purchase orders, supplier terms, subcontractor agreements, financial approvals, delegations for spending and variations, complaints and dispute handling. When these are weak, risk increases because decisions become inconsistent, records go missing, issues are escalated too late, accountability is unclear. Checking whether procedures support consistent delivery is part of establishing risk context. Risk management policies and procedures. A risk management policy explains how the organization manages risk across projects and operations. It should be practical, not complicated. Typical risk management procedures include maintaining a risk register, using a consistent likelihood and consequence approach, assigning risk owners, who is responsible for controls, reviewing risks at planned points, monthly reviews or project stage gates, reporting high risks to senior management early, capturing lessons learned and updating systems. In construction, risk management works best when embedded into normal routines like tender reviews, project startup planning, monthly cost-to-complete reviews. Site inspections for WHS and quality. When integrated, risk management becomes how we manage work, not an extra task. Ways to analyze risk. Risk analysis means deciding how serious each risk is, so you know where to act first. Common methods include qualitative, low, medium, high based on expert judgment, semi-quantitative, a risk matrix using likelihood and consequence scores, quantitative, detailed modelling, usually for larger projects. Most building businesses use semi-quantitative methods because they are practical and consistent. You might rate likelihood rare to almost certain. Consequence, minor to severe. Then identify the overall risk rating and priority. Consistency matters. A simple agreed method is better than a complex one that nobody uses. Review strengths and weaknesses. Before identifying risks, review strengths and weaknesses in current arrangements. This shows where the business is naturally protected and where it is exposed. Examples of strengths might be experienced supervisors and stable subcontractor relationships, strong job costing and monthly financial controls, reliable quality inspection routines, good document control systems. Weaknesses might include inconsistent site supervision across multiple projects, poor variation documentation leading to margin loss, over-reliance on one client or one estimator, no formal risk register, issues handled reactively, weak cash flow forecasting. This review helps you focus on the biggest exposures first. Risk management review and benchmarking. Benchmarking means comparing your current approach to recognized good practice. Many organizations align with ASISO 31000 risk management principles, which emphasize structured, integrated, and continuously improving risk management. In practical terms, benchmarking asks, do we identify risks consistently? Do we assign owners and controls? Do we review risks at planned times? Do we act on lessons learned from defects, delays, and incidents? Do we communicate risks clearly to people doing the work? Benchmarking does not mean complex paperwork. It means your approach is consistent, traceable, and improving over time. Discuss and analyze with stakeholders. Stakeholder input improves risk accuracy because the people closest to the work often see risks first. Relevant stakeholders may include owners and directors, estimators and contract administrators, project managers and site supervisors, key subcontractors and suppliers, clients and consultants where appropriate stakeholder consultation helps you. Identify risks you might miss in an office-only review. Validate likelihood and consequence ratings. Confirm whether controls are realistic on site. Build buy-in so the process is actually used. Risk management is not only analysis, it is behavior. If people don't understand or accept the process, controls won't happen when they are needed most. Communicating risk management. A risk process must be communicated clearly so it becomes routine across the business. Everyone should know what the process is and what their role is. Ways to communicate include toolbox talks and site briefings for site teams, inductions for staff and subcontractors, project startup meetings where key risks are reviewed, management meetings and monthly project reviews, simple one-page guides and templates, like risk registers and checklists. Communication should be two-way. Encourage people to raise risks early without fear of blame. Early reporting saves time and money. SWOT analysis and critical success factors. A quick tool to support risk context is SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, SWOT, helps connect business reality to risk priorities. For example, weakness in estimating can become financial risk. Threat from labor shortages becomes time and cost risk. Opportunity in a growing market may create growth risk if capacity is limited. Then document critical success factors. What must go well for success? In construction, CSFs often include accurate estimating and cost control, reliable subcontractor performance, strong WHS compliance and supervision, quality inspections that prevent rework, effective variation and contract administration. Stable cash flow. Risk management becomes clearer when you protect the CSFS first. Identify risks and factors to consider. Now we are ready for risk identification. Risk identification is asking, in a structured way, what could happen? Why could it happen? What would the impact be? What controls exist already? Factors to consider in construction risk identification include site conditions, access constraints, and interfaces between trades, subcontractor capability and supervision strength, lead times for key materials and plant, client decision-making speed and variation behavior, approval and inspection requirements that can stop work, cash flow timing and progress payment cycles, history, defects, disputes, incidents or delays from past jobs. Today we established context, scope, and preparation. In the next part, we move into assessing risks in more detail and planning controls and responses. In this session, we focused on the foundations of effective risk management in construction. We explored how to establish the risk context by understanding the business environment, objectives, and risk appetite. We defined the scope of the risk process to keep it practical and relevant to projects and operations. We reviewed current systems, policies, and procedures to identify strengths, weaknesses, and existing controls. We examined common construction business risks across safety, finance, contracts, time, quality, supply chain, and reputation. We also looked at tools such as SWOT analysis, benchmarking, and stakeholder consultation to improve risk accuracy. By the end of Part 1, the business is prepared to identify risks realistically based on site conditions, systems, and past experience. Don't forget, our LMS contains interactive learning video series. Please watch them as part of your study and link them to today's session. To support your study, we've introduced the AI Playbook. This tool simulates assessment questions and provides guidance. You can access it from your assessments. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Sudha Udaya, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.